So, welcome to the Wednesday, June 24th Food Ontology Curation Zoom. And today we've got Anusha Sahar talking about the plant template backbone, the structure of plant parts and menu options.
So I'm sharing my screen for, did I share? Wait, just a second. Why can't I see?
And we saw it for a moment.
I don't know why it switched off. I think it's in Safari, I guess. Yeah, can you see the plant template now?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. So, starting with this plant. So yeah, I wanted to have a feedback on the plant terms, which I'm trying to develop for the plant template. Um, this plant template, it's fourth in the family of FoodOn term generation templates, alongside the animal, seafood, and fungi, which we have developed earlier. And each of the template carves out like the slice of organism, one slice of the organism world and generates food terms consistently. Like for example, animal is for terrestrial vertebrates, seafood is for aquatic animals, fungus is for fungi, and now the plants are for the plants, but the specific taxon which I could find relevant was the Viridia plantae. So all four run on the same engine. It's the same pipeline which Kai has developed, and a curator pick options from the drop-down menus. For example, I can show you quickly here. Like this is the list of all the plants. Then these are the species, and anyone can pick a category from here to choose against which they want to create the terms. Like suppose uh, organism based food product, and that depends what's in the organism base. If the organism base is, suppose in this case, it's onion plant, then it will create onion plant food product as a term. Other than that, uh, they have, so with every term, it's not just limited to that one like food product. It will generate its labels, it will generate its parents, definitions, owl axioms, and we don't need to really manually creating each other. And the good thing is that everything will be consistent across all the species. What we really want to do with the plant template is that firstly, we want to have a scale term creation, like we want to create over thousands of consistent plant terms from a few curated selections, which I just showed, and I can show you that in more detail. And also another thing is that we really want to stay consistent in FoodOn. Like suppose in previously when we had the terms from Languel, the consistency is one of the biggest issue. Like suppose every X raw, like I mean every apple raw or peach raw, it should be built from the same axiom pattern, which was not the case before sometimes. And another thing is that we want to avoid duplication in plant template. Like suppose we want to reuse the existing FoodOn IDs. So if somebody else is going to create something in plant, they won't accidentally use the same IDs or create the same term again with two different IDs. And lastly, we want to be, the important is that we want to be extensible. So this new plant template, we can add the row, we can either add the species or we can add the row, like suppose this is the plant species tab. And we, so, sorry, Robert, I just saw your hand raised. Can you?
So a quick question, if you can scroll back up to the hundreds.
Scroll back to the
With the 100s, you had the kiwi there. Yeah,
kiwi.
kiwi fruit.
Yes.
So question, and I'm not being annoying when I say this. So you have the organism-based kiwi fruit plant, and then you have the species golden kiwi fruit, and then fuzzy kiwi fruit.
Hmm.
Uh, I just I'm annoyed here because there's cultivar, and I'm not sure how you want to split that up.
Okay, so you're saying this golden kiwi fruit and fuzzy kiwi fruits are the cultivars, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's good to point out. I can move them. We already have a cultivar list,
Okay.
and maybe I just added the species here, but I maybe I it's on me. Like I can add that in the cultivar list. So if cultivar list isn't at the bottom, I don't really, we are still discussing how to add cultivars in the plant template. So I'll move that here in this list, cultivar list. But yeah, thank you. That was really helpful.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for you, and it's really annoying to.
Yeah.
No one does this properly, so I don't have a good answer for you, or I'm not asking you to do anything. I'm just pointing out that this is an ongoing problem.
Yeah, I can add. We did a bit of work last spring about how to handle cultivars, and
Mm.
what we're turning to is that Wikipedia will be the source of all cultivar teams terms and their IDs, and we can add to Wikipedia, or others can, PTFI and so on. FoodOn won't necessarily mirror every cultivar down the list from a particular species like kiwi. So, yes, we have to figure out whether. I think what our commitment was is that we would have in food on the cultivars of kiwi from Wikipedia come in, since NCBI taxon doesn't even cover that level. Um, Therefore, if people want to add that extra granularity about their food, what they're talking about, they can switch to adding a cultivar specific term.
Can
Okay.
I jump in?
Yeah.
Just to mention that you are right, Rob. It's really complicated to have this done properly, and we discussed this at the hackathon last year about Wikipedia. So you're right, Damien. We will mix things between different sources, but just a question, because here you mentioned the taxon ID and or the taxon name, and as far as I can read, I don't know all the variety and cultivars of kiwi by heart, but you have a genus and species different from golden kiwi and from for other kiwi. So I
Yeah.
guess we have to decide where you are doing the how do you how did you make the mapping with the taxon ID first? Because then you can
Yeah. Anusha,
better decide if it is a cultivars or not, because genus and species are the taxon name.
and Anusha, if you could scroll back up to your kiwi list at the top.
Okay.
Right. So you have three
Two,
different species there.
two,
Or
at least two,
two species.
because
Right. So, and so that raises the question of whether the Kiwis have a nice clean hierarchy within NCBI taxon. Um, but those are different taxon IDs, so they do merit two entries.
Okay.
and so it's two different species. So could be two different cultivars, but at least two different species. So it's a taxon name.
Mhm.
And then cultivars is a infra-specific taxonomic rank.
Yeah, and we're going to position the cultivars underneath the NCBI taxon hierarchy, so people will have the ability to add that fidelity.
Okay. I'm at some point going to restart on wheat and hops again.
Hmm.
But quick question, Anushka, how do you see um, how do we handle trade names?
Trade.
Which because they are sometimes a
Mm.
cultivar and sometimes they are not. But you have certain trade names that are a cultivar, but they live in their own little box as plant breeders' rights.
Yeah.
And I'm
Hmm.
sorry to just dump all of this on you at the same time, but
No, I think those are all the valid questions, and that's the same scenario sometimes here as well. Like suppose when we were doing the seafood stuff and we had the names from FDA, so we were thinking how to really add those for them. So for plants, if we have the trade names, that's a good thing to think about. I'm not sure right now how we can handle it. If Damien has an idea, you go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's essentially this almost identical to the cultivar issue. Whether there's a genetic basis to a difference, or whether, I mean, there usually is. But we're going to offshore that to Wikipedia to have the IDs for such things, rather than us trying to maintain a database of some kind of those references. So it would be if you can't find your trade name product or your cultivar, go to Wikidata and add an entry, and it's actually really easy. And then we can echo those IDs back in.
Hey, Damien, I think the only thing to add is that for Wikidata, we have to have like the reference. So if it is a trade name, if it's copyrighted, then we would point to that intellectual property. Just some kind of source. If it's like a commercially available seed, then we can, point to the manufacturer or producer's website. Just some kind of like validation that this is out there, people are growing it, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I would add that it is the same thing for cultivars because there do exist some collections of seeds and varieties and cultivars. So it's also a different kind of collections of. It's not trade. Cultivars are likely the same as trade name. What do you think, Rob? It is also managed by organization.
The issue. Okay, so the problem is genetically, I think there is more variety genetically within the same cultivar and trade names as there is across trade names and
Yes.
cultivars.
Yes.
So it's very untidy, and a lot of these things are more administrative and legal than anything
Yes.
else.
That's
So
what I want to say. That's more administrative and legal, as you said.
that said, in order for this to survive contact with reality and to be useful commercially, and at the end of the day, you need to be able to point to a Macintosh Apple and say this is where it fits within the system. So I think Sarah's being very reasonable when we say, okay, we're going to make a Wikidata entry and say this is the evidence for it, and that may be a commercial catalog entry or a patent or a seed entry. But I'd be very honest with you, especially for things like hops. Somebody is going to put something out of the ground, call it, Bob's Special Hops, and nobody knows what it is. So it is. So we do our best. I think sometimes it'll be self-evident, and sometimes it'll be a judgment call, and I don't have a good solution for it. So again, I'm not throwing stones. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, great. That's great.
And also another thing for this list is that this is a very preliminary list, which I have initiated with what we already have in FoodOn. Like suppose either a species or a cultivar, if FoodOn has golden kiwi fruit right now, you will find that in this list. Because we haven't really decided what to do with the existing terms which we already exist in FoodOn, because many data sets or many agencies are already using those IDs. So that's another thing. And also another thing, this list is made based on what's available in NCBI taxon at the moment for the IDs. If we don't have any ID, I have separated them out, but this list is entirely, mainly you will see most of them, the ones which have the taxon IDs available in NCBI, or it could be an existing FoodOn term. Yeah, so related to the background of the plan template, is there any other questions, comments, or concerns? I can introduce you to the 4 tabs we have. So this is the plan tab, which is, again, it has these columns, like suppose compiled. It can be for whenever we'll compile certain row, it will be added as a true. And then it has an anatomical parent, like suppose apple has an anatomical parent, palm fruit. Organism base, which is the plant or a tree. And then we have this taxon. We have NCBI taxon ID in this one. And then we have a pick list where we can choose what exact terms we want to generate for that particular species or a cultivar for now. And then there are 6 different menus. And these menus are the same, which you will also find in this menu section. And this menu is a single document which has this fungus menu as well, because we are trying to aggregate all the menus together for the same kind of things like plants or fungus. and then you will see the plant menus, and these plant menus are the same, which you can see here in the pick list. And we have divided them, probably you can say like with the botanical classification, like material menu, then we have fruit menu, seed menu, leaf menus, shoot system, root system, just to better categorize them in a single broad category. Like suppose seed menu has seed, seed raw, piece of seed, grains, kernel, and I still have a field about the or cultivar kernel, but this is again up for discussion, what we really want to do with the cultivars. Then the pods, husk, shell, things like that. And then we have leaf. There's a hierarchy for leaf as well. Then there's a hierarchy for stem, shoot, head, everything. And then there's a hierarchy for root as well, like root, tuber, bulb, clove, etc. So right now, these are the 6 menu categories we have in the pick list. And we are open to add more depending on the need, or if somebody really requests something which lies beyond these 6 categories.
Yeah, one other thing to note there is that each menu is backed up by item is backed up by a FoodOn term now.
Yeah.
Anusha added all of the generic plant blankety blank items in the menu in, so that's its own hierarchic branch that people can fall back on. If we're not precomposing a term, they can say, here's this cultivar and here's the part that I want to talk about.
Yeah, I'll be showing that hierarchy, and actually I need some feedback related to the hierarchy because I have added some of the terms to FoodOn, but I still have to add some more terms like the remaining rest of the section in FoodOn, but that needs a little bit of a discussion, and that's why I wanted this meeting to see if everyone is on the same page. And then the third tab is the plant parts, which is actually a catalog of all the plant parts where you can see all these fields which we have created right now, along with their parent class, IDs. There is an example I have added, like suppose organism base is apple tree, or organism base is what we have over there in the plants. When we will run it first time, it will be apple tree, then the okra plant, onion plant, and like that. It will be generating terms for these. And then we have the substance, piece of organism base. Okay, now if you see in the animal template, it was relatively easier to have chicken or chicken hierarchy, but in the plants, we have these edible parts like apple and kiwi and all, but these are still not the, what should I say? If I'll say apple material, that will still be specific to the fruit material. It won't be seed material, and apple material are 2 different edible parts of the plant. So for that, to accommodate both apple and seed and leaf, we have created now the broad terms, which are apple tree material, which can accommodate any material which is derived from apple, or any material which is derived from the seed of apple or the leaf of apple or anything. So that's the difference from the animal hierarchy here. So first, there is a broad hierarchy related to tree or plants like apple tree raw, tree material, tree substance, apple tree, piece of apple plant, pieces of apple tree, pieces of apple plant. And then we come to the edible parts like apple or any fruit or any seed, like apple raw, apple dried. Then we have seed, we have grain here, we have piece of seed, we have piece of grain, then we have grain husk, leaf. In the leaf, we have raw, fresh, dried, ground, and we still have to discuss about these, how to add these in FoodOn. Then, and that can be something for the next session. Sarah, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I see Magali also had your hand up. Did you
My
want to go?
question is not directly linked to the hierarchy. It's about the cultivar again and common name. But please go on, Sarah, if it is more on
No, I
the
had the
topic.
similar thought as well. Jenny had been working on a piece for our publication that you all were invited to, um, concerning vernacular names, basically
Yes.
common names and synonyms. So yeah, I would kind of put a pin in the cultivar discussion that we would also want to encompass common names, vernacular names.
Yes, I was just wondering if we can consider the cultivar name as a common name rather than a species or a taxon, or because in fact it's either a commercial name or like a common name if you don't know the genotype and so on exactly.
I
What do you
think we do
think?
need both. That's at least how PTFI is handling it. So we do set subspecies level information as variety, cultivar, breed,
Yes, when you know the
line,
real,
genetic line,
yes,
right.
okay. It's an
Um,
intraspecific level, taxonomic intraspecific level,
yes,
intraspecies, yes.
yes.
And
But
then you
then
deal with the common name.
as
You
a
also
synonym.
as a synonym. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, common name as a synonym you're suggesting?
Common name as a synonym.
Mm-hmm. They
So
may.
uh, I'll comment. If we are adding through this menu system a cultivar, then the name of the cultivar isn't some kind of scientific name. It's actually the what I would call a common name straight from Wikipedia, Wikidata. It's positioned under the taxonomic species, if I'm not mistaken, and therefore the visibility or the use of that common name can go straight into this species column. Uh, there wouldn't be a scientific taxonomic name in addition to the cultivar name. That would be in the hierarchy of under which the cultivar is placed. Does that kind of get at something here? Rather than you wouldn't need a synonym for cultivar. You could just say the cultivar name. Um,
Not a synonym. Well, I mean, I feel like it could be at the subspecies level that you would encounter a common name, but at least the way the PGFI is handling it is more at the genus and species level. And so we are also multilingual, and so we're trying to incorporate what geography and like even regions within languages and trying to use the ISO codes and ISO regional codes for country and language when available.
mhm.
But yeah, I could. One of the really good examples that Jenny has presented on is we have brinjal, which is also eggplant, which is also something different in Europe that it's not coming to mind right now.
Yeah.
So that would be like at the genus and species level, but we would still want to capture all of those synonyms to still refer
Okay.
back to
Uh,
eggplant.
Okay, well, that's great. We don't have to do that inside this spreadsheet. We're going to move all synonym management off to this SSSOM linkage such that it can be blended into the ontology on demand by people. So yes, we can collect synonyms and manage them, and then they would be, however, in this separate table for any anything that has an ID, whether it's a NCBI taxon or a FoodOn term or a Wikidata term. We can blend these synonyms in. But yes, the curation system for doing so is not some kind of nice online thing at the moment. It would just be in the table form, SSOM.
So I did have another question, which is originally why I had raised my hand regarding the robot template for plants and the apple tree example, Anusha. I wonder if we're thinking about being broader in our like top level naming, so not like apple tree, but apple plant, and knowing that we will encounter like different types of trees. Thinking like the quinoa like, example wouldn't generally be a tree. It would be like a shrub or something small plant. So if we had a more general like upper level term, then we could kind of iterate on that uniformly. Just kind of initial popping out of thoughts about the template.
So I would like to, on that note, and one thing that I'd like to talk about very briefly, there's the thing and there's the name of the thing, and those are two different things. And so I agree, Sarah, that there's this annoying parts of this where we say it's an apple tree, but before that it's an apple shoot. And there's an entire other taxonomy about the growth of the plant and its maturation. Uh, the one lesson that I'd like to bring in from other places is that if you really want to have this synonym part and really have language involved, that's a whole can of worms, which I think is best handled with something like ESCOS labels. And the thing then has a bunch of labels attached to it that are used with other contexts. And the problem that then occurs is that there are certain plants that occur in certain cultures which are nowhere near English, and then it becomes impossible for us to handle it because it's rooted in that culture and it never occurs in the other culture. So it becomes unmanageable from a information management perspective. So I'm tempted to tell you the organism parent, for example, beet and beetroot, don't necessarily map to that state of the plant. They are the name of the thing at that state, and the state is the complete handling of the state. It gets handled elsewhere. And that was my rant. That's a little bit convoluted. Sorry.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, right. What is the minimum thing we commit to when we're naming a food item? And I am hoping that FoodOn fulfills that. So each of these terms has a plant taxonomy um, name to it. I mean, term. So shoots are in there in plant taxonomy. So any stage of plant development the plant ontology has, we could reference here as a menu item. So I think Anusha does have sprouts, for example.
Yeah.
And when we name the taxonomy group, I mean, when we name the food on side of it, like apple tree or apple plant, we were talking about that. And Anusha, refresh my mind, but I think we're giving people the choice at least of plant or tree.
Yeah. So in the general plant hierarchy, of course, I have created plant as a general term, which will, and underneath we'll have like apple plant or apple tree, but it's not something finalized yet, but it's still up for discussion what majority thinks, like what's more practical out there.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's just an example. But yeah, in the general class in FoodOn, the broad class will be a plant underneath which we will have all these. Okay, so any other questions before we move to the hierarchy? Okay, so if not, then another thing is that we are also trying to reuse the existing FoodOn IDs, and which you will find in the plant IDs table. Like suppose apple fruit product is already existed FoodOn. This is its FoodOn ID, and this sheet will tell us how to add the sheet label, what sheet will create, and then every row will be assigned an ID that will help us to map that to the existing FoodOn ID we have. So we are so this will help us to avoid any kind of duplication and to reuse the existing IDs. So it was just a brief overview of the connected tabs we have for the plants template. And I want to have more feedback on the working plant hierarchy demo I have. So this is a general plant hierarchy, which I have added some pieces in the plan already to FoodOn. Like suppose what currently FoodOn already has plant material. So the ones which you can see existing, that means it already exists in FoodOn, and the new ones are the proposed ones in the hierarchy. So this is the proposed hierarchy I have, like plant material, and underneath it will have plant substance. That can be anything like a liquid coming from the plant, like latex, xylem, sap, anything. Then we have a plant food product. It's an existing term, but it will be at the same level as the plant substance, and it will be underneath plant material. Then we have plant pulp and pulp raw. And then we have plant at the same level, and this plant will have all the other plants. Like for example, it's beet plant. So this plant means that this will be created as beet plant in FoodOn. And then we have beet plant raw. Then we have piece of plant, which is already an existing term, but underneath we'll have these new terms now: piece of plant raw, And piece of plant means, if you want to see the definition, what exactly piece of plant it, it's a severed. So yeah, when we say piece of plant, it means we are saying about the whole plant, like piece of apple tree or a piece of apple plant. And that will have anything underneath related to the apple tree, like seed, leaf, stem. And then underneath we have piece of plant, we have plant seed, plant grain. And now plant grain is underneath plant seed. And that's because I tried to search a lot about that. And then I realized that all grains are seed, but not all seeds are grains. So considering that, I have organize that in this way, like plant grain is underneath plant seed. Sarah, do you have any question?
Yeah, maybe just to add shoot in addition to root.
In addition to root?
Yeah, so you could have both
Okay.
like comprehensive pieces, kind of do you have it already? Maybe up above ground? Yes,
do you think
stalk.
stalk is different than a shoot?
Yeah, the shoot is more generally like the whole above ground portion. So the stalk would be like the main branch, and then the leaves would come off of that.
Okay, so.
But I think that stalk is more like a stem coming from
Yeah.
the shoot. That's it?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Because I have this in FoodX too also. We
Yeah,
are not reinventing the wheel.
yeah.
I think I had shoot previously, but maybe because at some of the resources shoot was used interchangeably with stem or something, so that's why I took it out. But
Yeah, I can put it back in. I was just learning about pea growth, and I know what you guys are talking about now about the shoot.
Yeah, I think shoot is, I mean, it can be more specific when we're talking about like a bamboo shoot would be like the edible portion of the bamboo, but I think more generally the shoot is the whole above ground portion, just generically. But then yeah, like I said, people could use it as bamboo shoot to talk about
Yes,
just
and I think that a shoot is not always a root,
it is
but it
not,
is an
it is,
underground part, as you
yeah.
mentioned. It's the same as for example, sprout is the germin, it's from germination.
The young part.
And stalk, I think it is much like stem in my mind, but I think it depends on the kind of plant you are talking about.
Yeah, there are two beans and peas have different
Yes.
sprouting. I forgot the terms. I actually did a picture on this I can bring up later.
Damian, now that you mentioned bean, hello, everybody.
Yes.
Hello.
Actually, I'm still thinking why we should differentiate between grain and seed, because otherwise we will have to differentiate also maybe nut, maybe bean, because are different types of seeds. But
That's
then
right.
if we say seed, that includes grain. So for me, it's enough for me, but I don't know.
But where are the nuts? Because you are right, nuts. We discussed this botanically. It depends on the point of view. Either you have a botanical point of view or a common language point of view first, and then you are right. There is different kind of seeds, so why not mentioning grain? But also you have to specify the other kind of, because grain are from cereals, and you are not all seed coming from cereals.
Exactly.
That's the point, I think. And as it is very common to say grain and to have cereal seeds, so I think grain is much more used in the common language than other kind of seeds.
Okay. Is that merit a change here then? Because we have plant grain.
I don't think so. We need to change here, right, Magali? I agree with your
Yes,
point, because that's the thing which I was considering when I actually added that because grains are particularly coming from the cereals.
I think you are right. But the question of Sarah was why you do you not mention other kind of seeds if you mention grain as a subspecies
Like
as a
beans
child?
Yeah,
comes
beans,
from pulses, for example, or nuts from well.
nuts.
We will be
Agree.
doing that. So yeah, okay. So and so the answer of your question is yes, we will be having beans and nuts as well. I
You
think
also have
that
pseudo grains like quinoa and amaranth, which are
if
not
there is something
truly.
which you think that which is commonly used, then of course we can add that as a field if that
Yeah.
applies to multiple species or multiple,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can show just for a moment
Yes.
that slide I
Go ahead.
did for fun, just for fun. Because what I'd love is for the FoodOn website to eventually have all this detailed explaining the parts. So this was
I
me.
love it.
This was me learning about how the diagram actually comes from Saskatchewan Pulse Association that has some great graphics about this stuff. But here it is, all the material parts and the stages of development. And so this is where I learned that the shoot comes from below ground.
And you
It
know
does,
what?
in fact,
You have to consider monocotyledon and
I know.
dicotyledon.
I know.
That's the
So
first point.
there's
Good point.
hypogonal and epigeal germination. So the two kinds
Ooh, excuse me.
yeah. Anyway, just thought I'd show that. Back to you, Anusha.
Beautiful.
Anusha, I have a question for you there. You have grain and seed at the same level.
So seed should be parent.
It is not
Right,
the
like
same. No, it was not, but now I can't distinguish. But
it looks like they're at the same level.
it looks like, well, yes, but it was not the same level. No,
Oh, I see. It's plant seed. Okay, I
yes.
misunderstood. Sorry. Okay, never mind.
And then the seed would also be a part of the shoot. So top level should be shoot.
Mm.
Is
I'm
that
not sure. I'm
is
not
that all
sure
of it?
because
Yeah, the shoot is the entire above ground part of the plant. So that is the stem, stalk,
yes,
leaves.
but the seed is not always underground.
Yeah.
The seed is not always underground.
Yeah,
No,
sometimes it's
the
above,
above
sometimes it's
ground. The shoot is the entire above ground portion of the plant.
Okay. Are
Sorry,
seeds
above ground.
underground ever? Like peanuts, or is that what we're talking about?
So the shoot of the peanut plant would be the plant, which would be all of the above ground portion of the plant.
Right, right. I'm just saying if seed is part of the shoot, then are we trying to say that a peanut, which
Chicken
is
and the
seed,
egg.
is
So once
part
the
of the
shoot
shoot?
emerges from the seed, that becomes the shoot of the plant, which will then create, seeds are peanuts botanically, they're root nodules, right?
Okay, good. So it's a rule. Seed is always part of the shoot and never part of the root system. Of course. Yeah,
Peanuts probably, do they have seeds? I know potatoes do. That's a very good question.
right.
Um, hmm.
Okay. No, what you say stands, I think. Hmm.
And also, how do you manage all the different variations of roots and tubers, like rhizome,
Mhm.
corm, and
Mhm.
oh, that's a lot of variations. Sometimes we use just tuber, but it's actually not correct because we have tuberous roots. We have so many variations. I
Mm.
don't know.
Mhm.
Correct. So I guess peanuts here we have their pods, so not particularly. It is a seed from maybe from the edible sense, but botanically
Mhm.
pod perhaps.
Okay.
So maybe this, yeah, maybe we could see the seed could be above ground or below ground, but the shoot is the entire above ground part of the plant, whether it has a seed that is also above ground.
So we might have to manually curate some side channel
Plants
reference
are weird, man.
to everything that's called a seed, even if it isn't a seed, just like everything that's called a vegetable, even if it's a fruit.
Yeah. I mean, this template is being very botanical.
Yeah,
This template is not about the right, like there's botanical reality and then there's what people call it. So,
right.
This is more focused on that, and then what people call it goes in the synonyms or whatever.
I
Mhm.
will say keep it botanically. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we spent a lot of time doing this, and it's like, okay, what is it that makes any animal, any plant, like it has like these things. Like animals usually have a head, they usually have an eye, they, right? Like a plant usually has a seed, it usually has a root. These things are like patterns that repeat themselves over and over again. So the point was to keep it really botanical, really like species by anatomy, so that we create what physically exists, scientifically exists, and then what people call it is like kind of a different layer on top of that.
100% agree.
Yeah.
And also that,
Sorry, just my 2 cents.
yeah, of course, that completely makes sense. And also there is another question for that. When I was trying to add this in FoodOn, like suppose we have plant seed in FoodOn, I was skeptical about adding the equivalence axiom. Should that be referencing seed, or should that be referencing there are other parts which, like, suppose barley seed, we call it a seed, but it's actually a caryopsis fruit. So I'm not sure when we'll be adding plant seed in FoodOn. So that means,
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. This is exactly what I'm saying. So like
Mhm.
it's like barley seed should be the like synonym,
Mhm.
but
Correct.
the actual anatomical ontology term is like barley Chiopsis fruit or whatever.
mm,
Or a peanut example, it would be the peanut below ground portion is the pod. Although I'm seeing seed, that's how they refer to the edible portion of the peanut. So um,
Peanut seed.
I think it's
Well,
not
I
as
mean,
simple.
aren't nuts like true nuts are usually just seeds. There's a few things like Brazil nuts which are not, but
Yeah.
most
Another
nuts are actually.
example could be like Ariels. Usually people call it the fruit, but it's actually the Ariels that covers the seed and it's not the fruit. So we can
Mhm.
use just botanical terms and that's it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
as long as you keep everything botanical and true, then it fits.
Mhm.
And then it just has to be like, oh, but people actually refer to this as a grain, or they refer to this as a nut, or as a seed, or whatever.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Okay,
It
so
just it makes for confusing labels because like barley seed is barley Chaopsis fruit, but it's scientifically correct, which is I think what we should strive for.
okay,
Yeah.
maybe what
I don't
happened.
Yeah.
understand. Sorry, barley is a kind of cereals, right?
yeah.
Why do you say that barley seed is
Or
a
whatever,
fruit?
buckwheat or barley, whatever.
Oh, maybe you're talking about the buckwheat.
Just the
I meant,
question
I meant
was,
buckwheat.
do we have the different kind of cereals included in this hierarchy? Because you mentioned plant seed, but then you mentioned barley seed. So I think we will not specialize all the plant according to the plant name and then cross the botanical part. Or do you intend to do so? I don't follow the point here.
No, that is the point, to cross anatomy by species by by species.
Okay, and you will
That is
not
the whole
do
point.
that, or
We will.
The-
There's
Will be.
you
pre-composed
will.
terms, like that menu of the beets there. Those will actually be pre-composed terms in FoodOn.
Mm-hmm. But I think it's great. So I don't understand why you say that barley seed will not be included, for example.
Because
Or
it's
maybe just
not
as
botanically a seed.
It's a grain,
so I think maybe like we're talking about the whole, it's a pseudo grain. But I think I don't
a
remember. There's
pseudo
a
grain.
really weird nomenclature around barley. The actual like edible portion has a unique botanical terminology that is like not seed. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay. Well, sounds like A, there are going to be some terms that we'll still have to hash out what we actually select on for menu items.
Mm.
And then on this second front, where people are calling us a seed, a fruit, or whatever, maybe we'll handle that over on the food product hierarchy, where we just manually curate some categories to help people navigate that way. But we'll
Mm.
keep the organism material branch pure to biology, something like that.
So I think also for your question, open question, Anusha, the seed is not always part of the shoot, but the shoot is always the above ground. Magali had it from FoodX2 written really nicely. Um, the anatomical, what was it?
Aerial part of the plant.
Aerial part of the plant. It's always the above ground portion is the shoot. But with the case of peanut, it just so happens that the seed is the below ground portion, the root nodule on the peanut plant. But the peanut still has the shoot, the aerial part of the above ground portion of the plant.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you so much. So does that mean that we don't, I don't see plant seed connecting to plant shoot then by relation part of,
I
is
feel like
that
it's both. Yeah, both the shoot or the root.
both the shoot or the root? Okay. Um,
So the shoot, uh, let's see, shoot is part of seed, um, emerging shoot. So there are stages in plant development where there actually is a shoot, and then you would say it's part of seed, but only for a certain amount of time. Then the seed uh, drops away, and then the shoot is no longer part of the seed. It's a part of the root. So I think we have to avoid overcommitting here when it comes to the genesis of plant change
Even
plant.
even depending on developmental stage of the plant, the shoot is always the entirety of the above ground portion.
Yes,
I
yes.
think what you're saying is like once the seed is detached from the shoot, it's its own entity, perhaps.
The shoot is either part of the seed or maybe it's connected to the root uh, only up to a certain stage. So we would avoid actually, maybe we just leave it to the plant ontology to make claims about what is actually connected to what
Mhm.
okay.
in in,
Uh,
in plant development stages.
okay, so because we have one them more in detail in next coming up sessions, but suppose for plant bulb, I have added that in FoodOn with plant bulb raw. I have not added these because I wanted to make sure that it's a correct hierarchy. So what I was thinking that plant bulb has these multiple cloves, so probably we should not add plant clove directly under plant bulb because it's a piece of plant bulb, or do you think it's a part of plant bulb?
Yeah, right. Well, it can be both actually, and that's the kind of thing that we could manually curate rather than trying to get. But
Yeah, I
it.
mean, I'll have to do the manual curation for now to add these general terms in FoodOn.
Mhm.
Um, it's-
Uh, okay, so this brings up one thing about the peace thing. We the plant ontology sort of made some loose assumption that each part of a plant would be described anatomically without assuming that it was connected to others, and that's true of seed pods. Whereas over in the animal ontology, everything is assumed to be connected. Um, so but we use the word piece to make clear that something has been severed from something. Uh,
Mhm.
and we're staying away from part of. Like, so plant clove, yes, it is part of a plant bulb, usually in certain stages. But let's just leave that to the plant ontology to state as some kind of developmental um, thing. So I think what you've got there is perfectly fine, and we just don't need to axiomatize that it's part of plant bulb. Um,
that's okay. We can just go with so okay, so that's good to know because I can now add that to FoodOn then. So we have piece of plant bulb and raw, and then underneath we'll have plant clove and plant clove raw.
mhm.
Similarly, we have some plant kernel, plant kernel raw and dried. These are most commonly used for now, at least in FoodOn. And then we have plant pod. I have changed it to plant seed pod. But then there is also, so yeah, I think last time we discussed to change it to plant seed pod, but now when we are saying that peanuts and other things, they also exist in pods. So I think probably we should keep it a general term plant pod, which can accommodate things which are not seeds but still are a pod.
Mhm.
Does
Right.
that?
So that raises the question, can we have a biological term that refers to both the things that are above ground and those that are below ground? And I think they're two separate things if we're marching this biological dogma. So uh, a plant seed pod would be referencing the above ground construction and then the whatever the peanut shell is called anatomically would be the other generic term. Uh,
What would be the genetic term for that?
yeah, we'd have to look that up. I don't know what it is. And then in the food product side or some other place, we could actually make the linkage so people aren't lost looking for peanuts.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
uh, so, well, I mean, we could toy around with plant pod and then as subclasses, seed or nut. Um, oh no, right. It will be a plant pod either holds one or the other, but if it holds one thing or the other, then it's a different biological thing. So yeah, we have to be precise. We have to have the exact biological thing, and we can't mush them together one class. So yeah, find out what the peanut pod is called biologically. Could be plant. It could we might in common language we might be able to say plant seed pod on the one hand for the above ground stuff, plant nut pod for the below ground stuff. Maybe I don't know.
How about peanut gallery?
Yes. Well, there's ripe jokes to be made in all of this.
Come on, let me have that one.
This is why I come here for the food puns. Also, shout out to Anusha's amazing on-brand shirt. It's very lovely.
Yes. Yeah. It's
I
good.
think PTFI is one of the most, big contributor for this because most of the plant terms we are getting from you. So yeah, I think it would be helpful for us to map them quickly to other to data which you're giving. Okay, so another thing is that we have plant peel, and I wanted to check, is that okay to have that at the same level as the rest of them? Like it's under piece of plant, but then, yeah, because
Hmm.
we have lots of terms in FoodOn which are ex-plant peel, and
Yeah,
then
you
like,
know, God damn it. These aren't really peel isn't really that's not a biological term.
yeah.
And rind might be
I think we're gonna
yeah,
have to go like endocarp, mesocarp, all
right,
the carps.
right. Yeah. Which then suggests, Anusha, that things like plant peel and plant rind are actually over in the food product side.
Mhm.
Or we study the fact that some of these categories do involve a little bit of processing,
Yeah.
maintain the material characteristics, but they're kind of like butchery cuts now that I think of it. Those categories are very much like butchery cuts in that they don't conform to biological uh, divisions. Hmm.
Okay, so what do you think? What's the best place?
Well, we have sort of as a separate menu these non-biological um, just divisions in the animal template. So maybe that's what we need here. So are
Uh,
there other examples of non-biological divisions? Um, Perhaps the peanut shell one is.
Even when you're saying about butchery cuts, that's still a piece of animal. So isn't that the same case in plants as well, that
Yeah,
they're
well,
still,
that's what I'm saying. We could allow them, but we're allowing something that isn't biological. And that's probably okay if we accept
yeah,
that that's what's going on in the animal template too.
yeah. Okay, then that I will take that as yes.
Sure.
Okay, great.
So I pasted in a version or a example from coffee of the different parts of the fruit and seed and then their botanical equivalents. So we have like endosperm. Maybe these are not the best examples, but whole like endocarp, mesocarp is the pulp, and then the exocarp slash pericarp is the outer skin.
Mhm.
Um, so maybe still trying to stick to botanical. Um, Although I think it's going to be hard because sometimes the skin, as we would refer to it culinarily, is not going to be the same part of the kind of like cross section
Hmm.
of the fruit or tissue.
Yeah. So this reminds me of banana too, right? It's sort of a surprise that a banana, it's got all these different parts to it. So we call that a fruit in one case, but then other kinds of fruit don't include all of those layers. The skin, the shell, and the division between the shell of the fruit and then the inside. Um, okay, so it's almost on the hour. Anusha, I think maybe what to do is to at least separate the non-biological categories down to the bottom of that part of plant list.
Okay.
Um, kind of highlight them as a separate section. And then we'll just have to study these case examples. So, Sarah, it's great that you can come up with them since we want to cover them to some level. I mean, the question is, are we talking about describing coffee beans down to the cooked bean? Is the plant template supposed to have that, or is the plant template only going to refer to the raw or dried seed, and then over in the food product side, we actually start talking about roasted beans and the
I think at the outset, we should try to work within the botanical framework, knowing that every fruit is going to have those major divisions of like exocarp, mesocarp, endocarp, endocarp. Yeah, I think that's like the last one. Um, and then agree that probably we'll have to make a transition over to talking about food, edible, culinary divisions, maybe on the FoodOn side.
Mhm. Okay.
I
And
was just
I'm hoping that AI, Claude, etc., will give us a boost to map all of the existing food on terms into the plant template. We'll try to figure out how to do that so that Anusha doesn't isn't looking at 2 months of work to just get the existing terms in place.
With some heavy validation of our robust team of subject matter experts on the call.
Yes.
I've got to hop over to another meeting, but good to see you all.
very much, everyone. And Damien, I'll be away next week. And if do you have any agenda for the next week? Otherwise, we can cancel next week meetings. If not,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Right. We managed to do. Thank you all to get that paper in, and that's been great for the conference in the fall, triumvirate paper. Uh, so now I think we could start refocusing back on food on issues, for example. So I think maybe I would start there and try to.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great that you have something. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank
Thanks,
you so much,
everybody.
everyone. That was really, really helpful.
Yeah,
And
Thank you. Bye bye.
yeah, thank
thanks.
you. Bye.
Bye.